Help me reach 1,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I used to believe that guilt came in waves, sharp and temporary, something you outlast until it fades. But guilt doesn't fade. It settles, makes a home, lounges in your chest like an unwelcome tenant who knows you won't ask it to leave. And for months, I carried that weight around while pretending nothing in my world had shifted. Even though everything had. When I met Daniel 10 years ago, he was the sort of man who didn't need to announce his presence. Quiet confidence, steady hands, the kind of kindness that didn't come with strings attached. He worked as a paramedic, and while the world often forgot to thank him, he never forgot to show up for it, or for me. But somewhere along the way, I stopped showing up for him. It wasn't dramatic. No massive fight. No betrayal from his end. It was more like erosion. Little pieces chipping away until the foundation cracked. My long work hours, his night shifts, the brief conversations that became logistical notes instead of affection. And in the middle of that emptiness, I made the worst mistake a person can make. His name was Tyler, a coworker, charming, fast-talking, someone who made the office feel less like a cage. He didn't love me, and I didn't love him, but attention has a seductive way of making itself look like affection when you're starving for it. It started with harmless lunches, then turned into flirtation, then something far less innocent. For weeks, I convinced myself I could bury it, that Daniel didn't need to know, that ending it quickly would erase the stain before it spread. But secrets burn through walls, and mine was already eating away at the foundation of our home. Daniel didn't suspect a thing. That made it worse. One evening, after an unusually long shift, he walked through the door with that familiar exhaustion in his eyes. But when he saw me sitting at the kitchen table, hands clenched, phone turned face down, his expression softened like it always did. "You okay?" he asked. It was ridiculous how gently he said it, how effortlessly kind he still was to me. I couldn't look at him without feeling the truth clawing at my throat. "I'm fine." I lied. He kissed the top of my head and went to shower, humming softly under his breath. The familiarity of that sound made my stomach twist. I had detonated our marriage, and he didn't even know the bomb existed. I planned to tell him. Truly, I rehearsed a confession in my head over and over. "Daniel, I messed up. Daniel, I'm sorry. Daniel, I made a mistake. Just one, but it was enough." But I kept waiting for the right moment, and every moment felt wrong. Then, one Thursday morning, everything unraveled. I came home early, unexpected. Daniel's car was parked slightly crooked in the driveway, which was unusual. He parked with military precision. Inside, the house was quiet, lights off, except for the glow spilling from his office door. I thought he was watching videos or reading. I didn't think anything of it. Then I heard my name. I froze. His voice was low, steady, too steady. I stepped closer, heart pounding so hard it felt like it could bruise bone. And then I heard Tyler's name. My stomach dropped. Daniel wasn't on a call. He wasn't watching something. He was listening to recordings. Recordings of me. Voicemails. Messages. And one, God, I wanted to disappear. One drunken voicemail. I'd left Tyler months ago when Daniel was working an overnight shift. I had barely remembered it existed. But Daniel had found it. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't crying. He wasn't even breathing loud. The silence between each recording was somehow the loudest thing I had ever heard. I stepped into the doorway. He didn't turn, didn't flinch. He just paused the audio, his finger resting against a mouse like he might break it if he pressed too hard. "How long have you been standing there?" he asked quietly. My throat locked. "Daniel, I can explain." "No," he said. "You can tell the truth." His voice didn't waver. It didn't rise. It didn't crack. It was clean, sharp, almost clinical. And that hurt more than if he'd screamed. Because Daniel had always loved with warmth. And now he was colder than ice. "Sit down," he said. I obeyed, legs trembling beneath me. "Tell me everything," he said, still calm, still terrifying. And that was the moment I realized the silence was more devastating than any anger he could have shown. I thought the hardest part would be confessing, but I was wrong. The hardest part was watching Daniel listen, really listen, as I dismantled the life we'd spent a decade building. He didn't interrupt. He didn't sigh. He didn't rub his temples or shake his head. He just sat there, hands folded, eyes fixed on me like he was watching a stranger recount crime. When I finished, the room felt suffocating. Daniel leaned back slightly, exhaled once, and asked, "Is there anything else?" The question shook me, not because of what it meant, but because of how he said it. Steady, polite, as if we were discussing a bill or a broken appliance. I felt something inside me crack. "No," I whispered. "That's everything." He nodded, slowly, almost mechanically. Then he stood up, walked to the kitchen, and poured himself a glass of water. I followed him with my eyes, waiting for something, anger, tears, a slammed door, anything that resembled the man I knew. But instead he walked past me, placed a glass on the table, and sat down again with a strange, unsettling calm. "You know," he said softly, "I used to think I'd fall apart if something like this ever happened." I swallowed hard. "Daniel, please." He lifted a hand, not to silence me with authority, but with a tired sort of gentleness. "Let me finish." I nodded. "I always believed love made people fragile," he continued. "Like if someone betrayed you, it would break you in half. But sitting here, I feel something I never expected." His gaze lifted, meeting mine straight on. "Nothing. I feel nothing." Those words hurt more than any insult Tyler ever threw at me, more than any fight Daniel and I had in the past, more than all the guilt I'd been drowning in for months. Nothing. He felt nothing. My chest tightened. "Daniel, don't say that. You're in shock. You're hurt. You're shutting down." "I'm not shutting down," he replied. "I'm seeing clearly for the first time." He stood and walked toward the window. And in that moment, with his shoulders square and the dim afternoon light falling around him, he looked older, heavier, like the weight of everything had aged him years and minutes. "When you love someone," he said quietly, "you don't imagine them choosing someone else, not even accidentally. You don't imagine them talking to someone else the way they used to talk to you. You don't imagine them slipping away piece by piece." I blinked back tears. "Daniel, I'm sorry. I ended it. I regretted it. I never stopped loving you." He turned around slowly. "That's the problem. You call it love, but the version of you that did this? I don't recognize her." His words weren't sharp. They were honest. And honesty, when it's that clean, can cut deeper than cruelty ever could. He walked past me toward the bedroom. My pulse spiked. "Daniel, please, we can talk about this. We can—" "This isn't a conversation," he said from the doorway. "This is reality catching up." He closed the door behind him. Not slammed, just closed. I sat alone in the living room, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the clock above the mantel. Every sound felt louder now, echoing in a space that suddenly felt unfamiliar. After about 20 minutes, Daniel emerged wearing a jacket. He grabbed his keys from the counter. "Where are you going?" I asked, rising from my chair in panic. "For a drive." "Daniel, can I come?" "Please." "No," he said simply. "You've had months to think about this. I need a few hours." "Are you coming back?" The words broke out of me before I could stop them. He paused at the door, his back still to me. "I haven't decided." The door opened, then closed, and that was when my legs finally gave out. I sat on the floor, tears streaming down my face, and realized something I had been too stubborn, too foolish, too selfish to understand before. I had always feared Daniel's anger, but his absence, his silence, was so much worse. Hours passed. The sun dipped. Street lights flickered on. And still, Daniel didn't return. I paced the house, checked my phone obsessively, replayed every moment of the past year, every mistake, every lie. Regret can strangle you when you have no one left to aim it at but yourself. It was almost midnight when his car finally pulled into the driveway. I ran to the door before he even reached it. He stepped inside, tired, expression unreadable. "Can we talk now?" I whispered, terrified of the answer. Daniel looked at me for a long moment, a long, devastating moment. Then he spoke in the quietest voice I'd ever heard from him. "I'm not leaving tonight, but I'm not staying for you." My breath caught. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said, setting his keys down, "I'm staying because walking away this second would make me just as impulsive as you were." He looked at me one final time, eyes empty of warmth. "But don't mistake this for forgiveness.